So thank you all so much for coming. We really, really appreciate the amazing turnout that's happened. We are Dragonfly Mental Health. We're a nonprofit organization, and this is our very first workshop. And as hopefully you're all aware, it is about organizing your own peer network. We have 5 fabulous panelists, and we'll have them introduce themselves in just a minute. Thank you all for coming here. I really, really appreciate it. And we hope that you find this helpful and useful. So one thing that everyone seems to be doing a phenomenal job of is maintaining their microphones off during the bulk of the presentation. We would like to have you please keep them off until we ask for engagement. There'll be one little point right near the beginning, and then after that, we'll have the panelists go through a brief presentation, general overview of how to build a peer network, and then we will be opening it up primarily to questions and answers from you. You can also add your questions to the chat, and we'll have someone observing that and keeping track of that, and we can read your questions that way if you don't feel comfortable unmuting and asking the questions yourself. If you would like to ask questions yourself or speak, please use a raise hand feature so that we can identify you and we don't kind of have chaos. So if you're not familiar how to do that, try to find the participants button at the bottom. Usually it's at the bottom of your screen if you're using a browser. This will pop up a separate window, and at the bottom of that it should have a raise hand button. You can click that to raise your hand or click that to lower your hand, and we'll be able to see it. A hand will pop up next to your name. We already covered the accessibility feature. If anyone needs access to a live recording or a live transcript rather of this recording and workshop, we do have that available. So that's in the chat. I'll add the link one more time for anyone who came late. And if you do need that, go ahead and ping either Yelena or Olga, please, directly, and we'll make sure that that gets to you. Let's see, I'll add it to the chat again real quick before we get started. Okay. So, and people are already chatting with each other and helping each other out. That's fantastic. Okay. We also wanted to point out, in case you didn't notice, there was in the email with this link and Zoom information, a starter guide. So some of our members did a phenomenal job of putting together both a kind of grid table form, and as well as a screen reader friendly version of essentially how to start, what to think about when you're starting your own peer network. And so this is a scratch pad for you to start putting your ideas down. Hopefully this presentation and Q&A session today will also help you think about things that maybe haven't come up or you might be intimidated by, because it's so much when you don't know, but we've got an amazing panel of experts to help you with that today. So fear not. So let's get started with who Dragonfly Mental Health is. Just to share a little bit of our backstory. We were just founded last year, and so we were born out of a mission that a lot of us from around the world shared, that we wanted to create a sustainable systemic change in the way mental health is perceived and addressed, specifically in academia. Dragonfly Mental Health is purely by academics for academics. We have over 90 volunteers right now that are addressing all kinds of issues. And as a nonprofit organization, Dragonfly Mental Health provides a variety of services and is engaged in a variety of activities. We do provide consulting services directly to communities and campuses. We conduct our own research, and we support academics at all levels in a wide variety of ways. So check out our website if you haven't done that, or in order to find different ways to engage with us. So today's agenda will briefly have the panelists introduce themselves, and then we're going to cover a few key topics for starting your own mental health peer network. And so the first question, and most important one, is why? Why are you starting it? Really defining that's important. The next is to find other like-minded individuals and allies that can help you with this, both directly and indirectly. We will discuss building the backbone, designing the structure, and establishing a schedule, as well as touch on, how to be seen, how to be heard, how to communicate what you're doing, how you're doing it, and encourage other people outside of the organization structure to go ahead and, get involved and take advantage of the things you're building. So first, my name is Wendy Marie Ingram. I have a PhD in molecular and cell biology, and I'm one of the co-founders of Dragonfly Mental Health. I am currently the executive director, and previously, both my graduate school at UC Berkeley, I started a graduate network just within our department, and then as a postdoc, I helped and worked with graduate students and postdocs and master's students too, to build a mental health grad network at Johns Hopkins. So I'll let Yelena introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Yelena Brashanac, and I'm currently finishing my PhD in medical neurosciences in Berlin. I'm other co-founder of Dragonfly Mental Health together with Wendy, that I had pleasure to meet and start this whole story less than a year ago. I'm here director of operations, and before setting up Dragonfly Mental Health, my experience with peer networks come from Student Neuroscience Society during my bachelor studies, and Charité PhD network now during my PhD studies.
So the next panelist is Olga. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, all. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Olga, but I prefer Ola. So I have both MD and PhD. I work mainly with cancer and precancerous conditions in humans. And I'm doing my postdoc now, started the 4th year of postdoc in Germany, in Dresden. And my social activities and my volunteering, I've been focusing on, for a while, I've been focusing on mental health. So I organized a mental health initiative in our institute in Max Planck. Then I also am currently organizing, together with actually some of the participants here, the Mental Health Collective of Max Planck Society, the whole Max Planck Society in Germany. And I also work on a non-mental health issues. So basically I organize the Dresden community here in Dresden.
And our next panelist is Teresa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Teresa. I'm a 3rd-year PhD student in plant microbiology. I'm also located in Germany, in Jena. And my experiments of setting up a peer network come also from non-mental health initiative. So I helped to create a students group of Amnesty International back at my university in Regensburg. And with starting my PhD, I became more and more interested in the topic of mental health. So that's why I'm here now.
Thank you so much. And our final panelist is Rue.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rues Steinberg. I recently defended my PhD in cellular and molecular medicine at Johns Hopkins. And both of my experiences in building peer networks have been from a mental health perspective. The first one was the pre-health peer mentoring program that I started during my bachelor studies at CUNY Brooklyn College in New York. And the second one was the Peer Collective, which is a run by the students for the students mental health initiative that we created at Johns Hopkins.
Great. So, let's just launch into this and try to get as much time for Q&A as we can. So as we were kind of hinting at, the most critical point is really to get you started off on the right foot, is to identify the reason why you're creating a peer network. And so just phrasing it a little bit differently, how do you think a peer network should or will address the concerns and create positive change? When finding your why, it really does help to consider every aspect of what your ideal peer network will look like. And we'll touch on a lot of things and hopefully get you more comfortable and more familiar with it. But it's an ongoing process, and it's not something that we're hoping you'll be overwhelmed by, but it is something that this will help you not have to reinvent the wheel. We're creating a support network here to encourage and allow for people all over the world to, to activate and galvanize within their own communities and create change. It's totally doable. So before we really launch into the presentation part, I wanted to just pause and see if anyone here would be willing to unmute and share why you came today. What are you interested in so far? What's even your proto idea about why you would want to start a peer network yourself? Does anybody want to share? Give it just a second.
We have someone in the chat.
Great. Who was it? Yeah.
Hi.
Aishani?
Hi, my name's Aishani. I'm doing my PhD in law at the University of Toronto, and I just recently started tweeting about starting a mental health, not just a mental health, but a peer support network for people who are doing law degrees, because I found that a lot of times when people talk about requiring support in the sciences or the social sciences, it doesn't totally apply to people in law. Our programs are designed slightly differently, and therefore, because of that, some of the support stuff doesn't apply to us. So because of these peculiarities, I felt like we needed our own space to be able to talk about some of these things, kind of like a safe space. So I started this thing called Legal Academic Circle, which that's the name that I decided on because I thought the analogy of a circle was lovely, but also because of my own experiences with mental health in academia. A couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with something, and I had to do a lot of running around from accessibility and accommodations and bureaucratic stuff. So I didn't have a space to talk about it. So that was my why.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. And you really touched on a lot of things that run throughout what we're going to be talking about too, is that, there are some universal principles that can kind of help anyone who's kind of interested in this, but what you said about your programming, your law in particular has its own unique features and aspects to it and culture, and so that absolutely plays into adapting anything that we're kind of presenting here and other people have done to your case, to your community. So thank you so much for sharing that. Just in a main, or trying to stay on time, we'll go ahead and launch into starting with Rue presenting a couple slides about the why.
Hi, everybody. So the first thing we want to address when starting a peer network is why do you want to start it? And just like in all other aspects of academia, when you're studying a topic, you look for the gap, right? You look for what need is not being filled. So for me, in starting mental health peer networks, I wanted to create and maintain a healthier and more supportive environment. That was the gap that I found in my experience. And I wanted to minimize all of the negative impacts that staying in academia can have on your mental health through peer support networks, through having events and peer mentors. As we all have experienced in all different types of academic environments, it's a pressure cooker, right? We're at such a high level of education that it's stressful and many people feel isolated. They don't have that community support to help them. And so that was the gap that I wanted to fill. And just like Aishani said, you can have different reasons why you're building peer networks. Sometimes it can be to prioritize or push student and postdoc agendas on mental health, or to create a more open and inclusive environment focusing on diversity and inclusion. There are so many different whys you can have, and I encourage you to think about what your why is. So for the mental health peer networks that I started, my main goal was to address the mental health and wellness needs of myself and my peers, to establish a more open and supportive community, and really no one was talking about mental health. Admins weren't listening to students when we talked about our struggles, when we tried to convince them to fund these kinds of programs. And this was a problem. And I was like, if I don't fix it, who's going to? So you can always really be the person who instigates change and, you know, fills that need for your community. And the main themes we focused on were peer support and advice through mentorship and allyship, tool building workshops. We gave workshops on maintaining motivation, managing your stress, anti-procrastination techniques, how to balance your mentor-mentee relationship with your PI, so many different topics. We also held interactive community events that were more social. We had mental health awareness days and really to increase the support of the community for these initiatives. And we also wanted to improve faculty and mental health training. That's such an important aspect of mental health, is that the faculty and the administration know what to do when a student is in crisis, or how to work and interact with students so that they don't reach a crisis point. Targeted groups of these kinds of peer networks can be students, can be postdocs, can be individual departments, or an entire institution. And the need of the community in this case for mental health is that there's a neglectful and dangerous gap in programming to address our mental health needs. And unfortunately, that can lead to suicide. And sometimes that can be the instigating factor for someone to say, something needs to change. I'm going to be the change I want to see in the world. I'm going to create my own peer network. And as we all know, there's so much published literature about mental health in grad school, how, you know, rates of suicide are higher because of the stress we're under. And really, who can benefit from these kinds of peer networks? It's students and postdocs, but also faculty, advisors, programs as a whole, and even the scientific process and an institution as a whole. Because when the student body is happy, their mental health is being taken care of, their science or whatever area of academia they're working in will improve as a result. And so you can make your peer network either exclusive or inclusive of whatever groups you want or are able to include. So for us, due to scope and funding and bandwidth issues, we had our mental health peer collective exclusively for grad students because we didn't have the funding to support all of the postdocs and create, you know, the wider systemic change that we'd like. Although one thing you can do is apply for grants, ask for sponsorships. Those are things you can definitely do and will be addressed a little bit later on. But if you have the ability to, you have the funding, you can be as inclusive as you like of as many groups. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Rue. And so I'm Wendy Ingram, and I'm going to touch on the next couple of topics: peer support, institutional support, basically finding your allies. So, you know, no one should be doing this alone. I feel very, very strongly about that. And, you know, the best way to really get going and get started is to talk to friends, talk to lab mates, talk to people within academia, to find support, to find ideas, to find other people, co-conspirators, really to help you do this and set things up. You can also advertise. So if you have just a small group of people, like one or two that are really gung-ho about it, but you want to recruit others, don't be shy. Send out an invitation to your grad program or to the school that you're in to find other folks that are interested in this and want to work on it. We recruited a ton of members at Johns Hopkins because we sent out a blanket couple of emails letting them know about our new organization and letting people know we wanted representation from all the departments within the School of Public Health. We also, you can recruit by asking each department. You can kind of do a like personal network approach too. So, you know, at Berkeley, we had 5 divisions within our department. It was a pretty big department, but we wanted representation from each of the 5 divisions. And so we actually went to each division, found people we knew in that division, and asked them, who are the people you think would actually care about this? Who are already passionate and interested and compassionate, and recruit them, ask them directly. You know, be really not aggressive, but enthusiastic about asking people to join. And you can also poll the student body, both as a way to raise awareness about what you're doing and what you're getting excited about, as well as figuring out what to focus on. What does everybody else want and need? Another important thing is institutional support. So, you know, I've really, as a grad student, we shied away from doing much other than talking to our admin support and a couple of faculty to basically be like, will you guys pay for like coffee and cookies during our events, and then essentially leave us be. And that was about it. But when we were at Hopkins, we really wanted to do quite a lot more that wasn't quite as private. We wanted to, for example, you know, like Rue mentioned, train faculty in how to speak to students, how to recognize and be more confident about broaching these subjects in an appropriate way. And so we, you know, we talked to the heads of departments, we talked to the heads of university services, student assistant programs, psychological services. We had people from psych services come to all of our events in case people were triggered or had, you know, a reaction and wanted to speak to a counselor right away. You know, interacting with the university and with all these people and partners can be really, really beneficial. And we also worked with the dean. We got meetings with the dean of the School of Public Health. And when we went there, it was amazing because she was completely unaware of what we were doing until we got in front of her and gave her a bunch of material indicating what we're doing, what we wanted from her. And she supported us. It was fantastic. So, you know, it depends on your comfort level. It depends on who's there. But I encourage you to at least chat with most people. So one of the effective strategies with the dean was to make these really attractive, succinct descriptions and pretty, you know, leave behinds is what they're called. So we had a description of who we were, what we've accomplished so far, and made it like, you know, there were pictures and it was very nicely organized. It wasn't just text on a page. And she hung on to it. She had it the next time we met with her. We had faculty that we knew kind of say, oh, I had a meeting with the dean and she had that on her desk. So it's not, you know, things that people are less likely to just toss away or something, is a strategy to work with. So let's see. So sometimes you'll be supported only after advocating vocally numerous times. So one of the things that I like to say is be pleasantly persistent. If someone says no the first time, it doesn't mean they're going to say no the second or third or fourth time you ask. And if they say that they need, you know, if they say they're not sure about what you're doing or what you're asking for, ask them directly, what would convince you? What would you support and why? And then go ahead and see if that's something that you can do and create. So, you know, there's a lot of different places and organizations that are probably already on your campuses, so you can coordinate with them. Coordinating with student and postdoc organizations is also a good way to recruit. Here's my pleasant persistence recommendation. So you truly never know who's going to end up a really strong ally, even if sometimes the most skeptical people are your most vocal allies once you've convinced them. And so if someone says no, go ahead and move on. Try not to take it personally, and decide whether or not you want to re-engage and when. So you can definitely ask when you're talking to maybe existing postdoc reps or PhD reps or coordinators, are they willing to promote your programming? Are they willing to encourage their students to utilize it? Well, the things that you're doing and the programs you're creating, will they refer students in need to your organization before they're having a crisis? And will they coordinate with you about events so that you don't have scheduling conflicts? And so those are really good things to look at and work on. So next up is Yelena, who's going to talk about building the structure.
Okay, now we are getting to the hardcore stuff, or just trying to get to work. Okay, building the backbone and designing the structure. From my experience, this is the part where networks either make or break it, as I could see. So pay special attention when structuring your team and deciding who's going to work with you, how is this interaction going to flow, and yeah, what will your best way to function be. I'm going to cover these three topics: leadership, division of labor, and events. When it comes to leadership, yeah, we collected some of our experiences from the team, and you can see that it's pretty much diverse. So there are different leadership styles, and you can see with your team what works the best for you. For example, one leader as a driving force is a pretty conventional way. And I can say it's the most difficult way because, one person has to put everything on their own back, and we all know how things are difficult. And the thing is that, motivation or your time and, resource effort can, dry out. So I would always suggest don't do this alone. Find a good team. It will be rewarding in many ways in terms of quality of work, friendship, community, interaction. I can, just keep on going. So from our different experiences, we had either representatives from different divisions and volunteers, then, co-presidents or co-leaders. I think that's my preferred style. Then, you can have a committee assembled from, chairs and, additional roles. When it comes to division of labor, it is really good to have certain responsibilities clearly communicated and taken over by people. So if you're organizing an event, event lead is responsible for organizing volunteers, completing specific tasks and so on. Depending on how big your network is, you can have a content manager, community manager, person who takes care of writing blog posts, certain material, grants, newsletters. It's really great if you all try to work this out, but you have certain people who are responsible that things are going smoothly. When it comes to events, it also depends on your network, on your team, how many events and how frequently you're gonna host. I would also suggest that you plan something like half a year in advance, and then reiterate if this is working or not, and then you can have events hosted monthly or bi-monthly, and they can take different formats, from workshops, discussions, some social events, and something in that lane. Topics can really range from managing stress or mindfulness, mentor-mentee relationships. You can host movie screening, have a really fruitful discussion afterwards, and yeah, it's basically up to your imagination what could be done. Okay, Olga.
Yeah, so I'm Olga, and I'm going to talk to you about the meetings. Basically, we will talk about regularity, place, and what's in charge. And I think these all things depend pretty much on how large is your network. So at the very beginning, when you create the network, most likely it will be small. And while you're still looking for allies, you'll probably need to have meetings when needed. So for example, you recruited 2 or 3 people, and then you have a meeting with them. Alternative to this is when you have a larger group, you can have meetings, for example, every other day, every other Monday morning at 9 a.m. I don't know who put a 9 a.m. here, because I think 9 a.m. is just unhuman, but please, we'll edit it out and put a patch on 11 a.m. or like lunch meeting or something. Or we can have meetings monthly. It also is sort of depend whether you're preparing certain event. For example, there's soon is going to be a mental health awareness week in October, and we are organizing it in the Institute. So of course we'll have more regular meetings prior to the event to organize it. But other than that, we will only have meetings when needed. Yeah, and the best way is, of course, to make a doodle, because you really want to, for all the people who are in the network to participate. So don't try, in my experience at least, sometimes, of course, executive decision is needed, but it's better to figure out the time when it's good for everyone. And regarding the place where the meetings are, it's also really different. It also depends on how many people are there, and it also depends on the infrastructure of your institute. For example, next to our institute, we have a nice, like, cozy cafe. And when the meetings are small and more like personal, I tend to have them and to host them in this cafe because it's just nicer environment. However, you can also have the meeting inside the university cafeteria, or even ask the university to book a room for you when it's needed. And you can have a regular central location. And now, since like COVID happened, basically meetings, or most of the meetings, are in Zoom, but try to keep them regular, otherwise people will fall apart. Now, free of charge Zoom is 40 minutes. Either your university can like help you out with the Zoom if you get a proper institutional support, or just limit your meetings to 40 minutes. It's also not a bad time to limit yourself to. And regarding the meetings, don't be shy to send reminders. This is also very important. And this is like, if you have a meeting established in 1 week, my regular is to send the reminder 1 week in advance, like 6.5 days precisely, and then the day before. And some people are very bad at reading the email, so just don't be shy to knock on the door or to send a personal email. This is also not a problem. And regarding the hosts in charge, of course, this also will depend on how many people you have. But you don't want, as a leader of the working group, or as a leader of the peer network, you don't want to host the meetings all the time by yourselves. You need to spread the load. So you can choose either like voluntarily or by chance, or however, or whatever you choose, the person who will be in charge. So it could be co-presidents can share the leadership, or it can be a flat organization strategy. So no one is in charge, but this is also like, if you have 15 people sitting there, someone is better to be in charge. You know, if it's 3 people, of course, you don't really need someone in charge. And agenda, we recommend to share the agenda prior to the meeting, if it's possible, so people would manage to read it a bit through, you know, like we sent you out this table. So you, before the meeting, could have a chance to read through the table and see approximately what your thoughts are. You can have a committee chair, but it should be somewhat an open forum. And so some people choose the updates in each meeting. So first then updates, and then action steps for the next week. But for this, you have to have regular meetings, of course, or like preparation for event. For example, if we want to have a follow-up meeting with all of you half a year later, that makes sense. But it wouldn't make much sense for all of us to have a meeting 1 week later, just because the steps which you are to take forward are too huge to make a meeting in 1 week. So please keep in mind that it should be feasible. And then, of course, it's important to send follow-up emails with the minutes, even if they're just 5 sentences. Please do that so people could keep a track, and so you yourself could also keep a track. And the next, I think Teresa should be?
Yes. Okay. So once you're all set up and have your existing network and also your backbone and everything, you of course have to think about how you can spread the word, because at some point you want to gain new members. And at the same time, you have to find an effective way on how to communicate within the group. So let's first come to new members. Event publicity and call for new members. So it's, of course, what you can always use is emails of your institute. There are different ways, send it out to all postdocs, all PhD students, whatever. Social media accounts, If you have good allies, of course, the university will also spread the word for you and will share things for you, but also make your own accounts and try to be as visible as possible. You can have a monthly newsletter with updates, what you've been up to, what you've been doing, and again, ask your university or whatever to help you to spread it. I personally made really good experiences with flyers in public spaces. I have the feeling that sometimes people don't like to read emails, especially when they're a bit long. And a flyer somehow catches your eye, and you're more likely to catch the interest of the person, or flyer or poster. So I think this is always a really good way. And then, of course, take every opportunity how you can talk to other graduate students associations. So my university, for example, has a welcome day at the beginning of every semester, and you could go there and talk to others. You could also have your own booth and make yourself visible on these kind of things. Coming to the communication with the existing members, there are a lot of different ways how you can do it. You can use, of course, Google Docs and all the other things that are offered there. You can use Slack. I don't know if everyone is familiar with it. It's an app, and it's really a good way to communicate. You can create your own mailing lists. I have to say, since I know Slack, I really prefer this app. Mailing lists can also, as I said, sometimes you are overwhelmed with emails. It can just get annoying. You can have different features that people can update the oh, sorry, I was at the next point already. Update website with members each year. Yeah, so make sure to be updated on your website, that not all the alumni are on the website, but that the members that are actually active are on there. I was at this point, can submit content for newsletter. So you can have this feature that your members can go to your website and add content there, what they want to have in the newsletter, what they want to talk about, what they want to get out there. And also in the newsletter, important organizational news should be highlighted. And as I said before, in the social media accounts, they should be highlighted as well. The website should house all your event information. So if you have something going on, it should be on the website, because that's if people look at your website, they want to know what you're doing, and you should make sure that it's updated and everything. Okay, so how can you connect with their external community? Again, mailing lists, flyers, and be present at open events. So also reach out of your university, out of your network, to other universities. Maybe you have a friend somewhere, or I don't know, and try to connect with them. Spread the word that a network like this is possible, and that it's an easy setup, and that everyone can do it. Yeah, again, social media, email, newsletter, have a brand, have a nice logo that makes you recognizable. Outreach to potential collaborators. Don't be shy, always try to talk. And if you can, speak to the media, just as Wendy did last week, making this podcast, already advertising a little bit. Publicity is good. So try to be as open as possible for everything. Yeah.
So I really appreciate all of the panelists. You are phenomenal to work with, and everyone has had such an interesting diversity of experiences. So thank you to all the participants and guests who came today. We would really appreciate if you did fill out this feedback form, and we look forward to filling needs and requests that you have of us. So please don't be shy, get involved in Dragonfly if you'd like, or bring us to your campus, or get in touch and let us know if we can set things up for you all to do better, and cultivate mental health at your own institutions. Thanks a lot, everyone.